flick through this quickly. So I did show this. Sorry, I'll just... Hello, everybody. That's a bit better. I did show this on the Sunday before I went, but there's a couple of things I'll just refresh your memory of why I went and what the objective of going was. And then I've got lots of photos. I have kept it as brief as I can. I promise I'll be finished by 7:30. So I think, will that, if I switch it on? Yeah, here we are. So this is, I think I spoke to you on the Sunday, and I went on the following Thursday, so that was the 26th. And I flew from Heathrow. We went across to Sao Paulo, which is the little red circle at the bottom. And we had, I think, about 3-hour change over there. And then we went right the way up to the top of Brazil, Paribia. It's like the northeast farming area of Brazil. So very mango farms, very rich in fruit, really countryside. So nothing like Sao Paulo was a mega city. I don't think I'd have survived 2 weeks there. I think 3 hours was long enough. It was super busy. It just the bit we saw from the airport really. But Paribia was beautiful. So I'll show you some pictures later. But that was that's where I went. Hang on, that's that one. So it took about 2 days to get there. So I think we got there late Friday night. And we went to João Pessoa, which is on the coast. That's the little circle at this end. But the following day, the Saturday, so we just got up Saturday morning. We had to get a minibus, and it was a 4-hour drive all the way into Patos. And Patos is like the desert of Brazil, of that county. So it was really green in João Pessoa, lots of mango farms and lots of... it just very green, lots of trees. The minute you went that 4 hours in, and you drove through some really big mountainous areas. When we got there, it was really dry. So Patos was really, really hot. So that's where we were. And actually, we were on the main road to Patos. And then if you carry on the road all the way across Brazil, you end up in the Amazon rainforest. But there's a lot of people that live in Patos that have never been to the rainforest because it's still... I think another 2 days of driving. It's such a big country. So, yeah, that's just where we were. So, yeah, that was the church we arrived at. That's Patos Church. That was the church. So we basically for a week I was in that church every day, apart from a couple. I think we had one day where we had a trip up a mountain with the pastor and his wife. But I know that church very well, the choir. It was really very like Inglewhite. You know, they still had coffee mornings and choirs, and junior church came in and did the singing, then went out. You know, there were so many similarities. I found my Brazilian Angela. So while there was 10 of us there, and I was really the only youth and children's person there. There was a couple of pastors, and they took the wives, and there was a young female pastor from London, and then there were 2 missionaries from Wales. But I found my little couple of Angelas in that first church, and I started doing all my things. And every church, you could just see the same kind of people just milling about and, you know, doing what everything needs doing. There were tech people, there were the kitchen people, there were the Angelas, there were the worship, there was guitar players like Steve. There were some lovely, worship leaders. It was wonderful. It is just like the same as here, but in Brazil, in so many ways. So this is what we planned to do. We were going to go to the soup kitchen. Oh, this was the residential home we went to, and on the morning we went there, we ended up having a big dance with all the old people. They were teaching us samba and Brazilian dancing. It was one of the most exciting mornings. And it was one of the mornings I wasn't looking forward to. I thought, what are we going to do at an old people's home, you know, a nursing home? And we had so much fun. We were dancing with the older people. And we talked to them first, and we sang with them and gave them a short message. But the dancing, it was such a good, fun morning. And I think we went in a school. I don't think I have a picture of that. This is the second church. This is the one by the beach. This is the one at João Pessoa. This was a richer church. They had more money, a much bigger building, bigger than our building. Different in, wonderful in different ways, this one. So this is the first morning we arrived. I think we're to the photos now, so I'll just cut through. So I think actually this was Friday lunchtime when we travelled all Friday night, all Friday morning, and we got there Friday afternoon, and straight away all of our food and drink was catered by the churches. They were so generous, so we didn't really, apart from the odd time we went out for tea, if it was a special treat, most of our meals were from the churches. It was lovely. So this was our first arrival meal, and you'll see they're just the people we went with. And then you'll see that, we went straight to so then we had a 4-hour drive to the first church, and I think they gave us the afternoon. Sunday was just going to the church service, get to know everybody. So we had a lovely Sunday Sunday worship. Monday was soup kitchen day. And that started off where we had to be up and ready for 8 o'clock. And we went to the local market. They made soup for over 250 people. But they went to the local market to get vegetables that were a bit, not fit to sell, but okay to eat. So they were given a lot of free veg and meat. And actually walking around the market of Brazil was a real eye-opener, because there were just cows led out. It wasn't like Sainsbury's. On a ratio of a 0 to 10, it was a 1. It was, yeah. But what was so nice to see is while they were going around the market, and we went with them to get this fruit and veg, and it was all donated by people that knew the church. They were stopping and praying for people and talking to people. They were just so evangelizing. Everywhere they went was an opportunity to tell them to come to church or to come and help. They were just always working. It was, yeah. But the market was a real experience, yeah. Some of the ladies I was with, I'm quite open to. I'm not. I've seen animals be killed and chopped, and a farmer's daughter. But some of the ladies we were with, it traumatized them actually. The Brazilian, yeah, because there's a lot of stray dogs, and the stray dogs are in the market eating the meat, and there's no refrigeration, there's no air conditioning. It really was. Something I'm not going to forget easily. Yeah, but anyway, once we got back to church, we all had to get a headgear on, and we actually made the soup. So Monday was such a hard day because I've never peeled that many potatoes and carrots and boil the bones, and it was a big, and we all had to wear our hats, and all these. This little lady here is a nurse. Is it Mary? It's Mary, but in Portuguese. And they all wanted the crosses that on the Sunday, they'd all got the crosses that Les had kindly donated. So you'll see all the way through this, everyone's wearing a cross that Les has made. They love the crosses. So I'll just go through. Yeah, so once we'd made the soup, they have the old containers from margarine and soup. They don't waste anything, so they just wash the old containers from the week before, and they fill them with soup. So this was the production line, and they went in the boxes at the end. So it was a full day of a job, making it, packaging it up, and then that night we went and delivered the soup. And I was just playing the Instagram post when you came in. There was too much video footage really to put on. I'll show you a few clips. But we basically stopped at 4 different stations around the city. And those people knew, the people have been going for the last 2 years, I think. So they know every Monday night, church are going to come. They bring them a tub of soup and bread rolls. And the people have got a home, but they're very poor. So it's really outreach. They always sing a song, do a short message, and then give the soup out. But it's military operation because they've 5 minutes to give the message, then 10 minutes to give the soup out, and then you get back in the car and you go to the next stop. And the queues of children and parents waiting for soup, it was something I'd never seen before, really. But they were so happy, just when the big truck pulled up, and they had a big pickup, like Steve Coles' pickup, full of soup and bread. When that pulled up, it was like, yeah, it was just really uplifting. yeah, really, really good. Oh, so yeah, so that was. This is not the soup night. This was the other night where, the second night, we went out with these t-shirts on, and we just went to the local market square. That's the pastor in the back with the glasses on and the pale beige-coloured t-shirt, and they just went. There's a bit of it would be like the flag market in Preston, a bit of an area where the homeless people tend to be. And we went out and just evangelised and prayed, and we didn't take anything with us that day other than prayer and song. Did they take anything? I don't think we did. No, I think we might have had crosses and we might have had some books to give out, but that was the second night of mission. This is the Aldeni, the lady in the yellow t-shirt, was my Angela number 2. She was so helpful, always there, busy doing. She was there virtually every day. And Sylvia and Anderson, the 2 people behind, were 2 of our translators. So everywhere we went, in Brazil, not many people speak English. So you always had to have translators everywhere you went. So that's there they are. So that's the pastor and his wife, Alina. And that was it. We had 2 busy days, Monday, Tuesday, and I think on Wednesday they took us up this big mountain for a day off. But it really wasn't a day off at all. It was so hot. You're not used to the heat. And we went to the top of this big, that's the top of the mountain there. The view was amazing. But it was nice. And the Brazilian people were very proud of the country. And they've got some beautiful parks and walks. And, so we saw some of those on that day off. The following day, I think actually Thursday, I have no pictures, but I think it was Friday, because they'd cooked for us all week. So most of our meals, lunch and our evening meal, were always at church. And there was a team of ladies that were always in the kitchen preparing the next meal. Brazilian people just love to eat. So you'd only just be finishing your lunch and they'd already been making tea. There was never so we'd always have breakfast in the hotel. But there was always tea. They love lemongrass tea and cakes, and it was just the Brazilians just show their affection through food. So we felt like we needed to repay these ladies. So I think this was the Friday evening, and this is Lorraine's the pastor's wife. Murky is a pastor's wife. Then there was me, Thanda, the lady. She's originally from Burma. She's a pastor in London. And then Sarah, at the end, she was one of our translators. But we cooked tea for them on the Friday night, and they loved it. They had a Burmese, like Thai curry, and then Murky made she was originally from Ethiopia, Murky, so she made an Ethiopian lentil stew. But they loved it was British food, but it wasn't very British. But they were amazed because they planned to make tea for us, and we said, no, on Friday night we want to make tea for you because you've welcomed us and you've looked after us, and so it was a really lovely night. So I think the following picture, I think we did they all just sat down. We did the washing up. The church kitchen, Leslie, would give you the shakes. Yeah. When we made soup. We were outside. It's open air. It's like making soup outside with a little table. It was very basic. So washing up and being in the kitchen was just a world away from what we're used to. But it's just the way it is there, and everything tasted wonderful. But we'd eaten all week at church, and it was only when we went in the kitchen on the Friday to make tea, we thought, oh my word, they don't have a fridge. They didn't have a fridge, and it was all outside, but we were all still alive, so we thought, that's fine. But they did such a lot. They were a church of, so part of, when you blessed me with the money to go to Brazil, you gave me much more than I needed for my hotel. But they have a department for the soup kitchen. They have a social outreach department that does, in Brazil, there's a lot of poor, mentally ill people, but there isn't the healthcare to cater for them. So they have a social outreach. They got out of the church office a rope, and they'd actually stopped someone hanging themselves, and they kept the rope to say, I think they'd got the call that this lady was in distress, and it was a bank holiday Monday, And they nearly said, we can't go today because it's a bank holiday and my son's coming home from uni. But then they did decide to go, and they actually took the rope off her and saved her life. The outreach they do is, it was, inspirational, really. So they have big teams. So every day church is doing a different outreach. So the things you could learn and be involved in were just really inspiring. So this was them eating the tea on the Friday night. They really enjoyed it. All the children came along. That was us just watching before we washed up. Again, some more crosses. This is some of the youth. They all have Leslie's crosses on, and they all wanted a selfie because I don't think they see many white British people. So not so much, I don't know if it was just me or because I talked to a lot of the youth, and I'd gone out and done some of the youth with them, but the number of selfies, if you go into Instagram in Brazil, I'll be on 1,000 selfies. And because they all said, oh, Louise, can we have a picture up with you? And I think it was just because I just didn't look Brazilian in the slightest. so these were a couple of the youth I worked with. So that was our first week. So the church in Patos were so lovely. The day we left on that Saturday to get a minibus to go home, not to go home, to go to the second church, the minibus broke down. Oh, so we were like, oh, what are we going to do? And so they hired another minibus for us, waited with us, made us snacks, and then got us on the second minibus. They were and they were all cried. They didn't want us to leave. It was quite, quite overwhelming, really. Sorry. Yeah, I know. So, second week. So this is when we've got to the second church. So Joe Pessoa is a much richer county. Lots of hotels, lots of tourism, the church had more money, but much more deprivation. So because Brazil is next to Venezuela, and I think Venezuela at the moment is having a really bad time government-wise. I mean, I'm not too political, but I know. So a lot of the homeless people, we didn't see many homeless people in Patos, but the people there were generally a bit poorer and just lived a basic way, but they did have a house and they had all the things. But in João Pessoa, you did see a lot of people sleeping on the streets. They had like favelas. A favela is like a shanty town. So there were places we couldn't go. We didn't go in João Pessoa, we didn't really go anywhere without a translator. But they also had a lot of wealth because it was very touristy. So it was a very different place. So this was when we first got there, a little picture of the whole team. That was, I think, our first morning at the hotel. So Lucia, this lady with the curly hair, she works for the Congregational Federation, so she was our leader, really, checking that we were up and what we were doing. She'd planned it all, so such a lot of work had gone in, with all the planning, because there wasn't a wasted day every day. There was an itinerary. So Lucia did a lot of hard work. So very grateful to her. So we did, between the two churches, I think we had a week with one church, and then we travelled must have been the Friday we travelled from Patos to João Pessoa, because we had the Saturday that was a day off, and we went on a boat trip and went to a beach, so that was us there. And Anderson here is one of the translators. He's been a student exchange with the Congregational Federation and been over to Wales, so he wanted to return the favour and look after us, so he was a really lovely person. But his uncle was the fireman, who is also the lifeguard, so that's why we had to pose and have a photo. So in Brazil, if you're a firefighter, you're also a lifeguard. So when we had our day at he took us round and showed us round. That was our little photo there, and a bit of tourism. And then we also went to this big Catholic cathedral. So that was a little trip we did. So this is the second church here in João Pessoa. The two guys on the front here, the guy with glasses, he's the guitar player, wonderful guy who did all the worship. And then the other young man with the white top, he was the outreach worker that did all the soup kitchens. So you got to know these people really well because you were working alongside them. I think that was our first Sunday there. There we are, singing at the front with, and that's the pastor there with the blue top. So this was nice. In this church, we got to do the pastoral visits. So we got to go out to the houses in Brazil. This was a lady. The newest lady is Adriana. She's a translator that lives in Wales but does the student exchange program. It was the lady behind, and she had a brother who was he'd been an alcoholic all his life, and she'd looked after him. But so really we were visiting her to support her because she'd had such a hard time looking after her family. But it was lovely to see the Brazilians in their own homes and get to know what they did. And she had 2 lovely dogs, and I was missing my 2 dogs, and I thought it was really nice to have half an hour in a home and spend that time with her. So that was another pastoral visit. This was a young lady. In fact, I'm holding her hand right at the back. I think she was about 85, that lady, and she'd been poorly and couldn't get to church any longer, so we took communion to her, so that was nice. And then we did a soup kitchen in the second church. So this one was just in one place, not 4 different visits. We went to one place and stayed there for a good couple of hours, really. So that was giving out the soup. There I am. And we'd done singing with them. So I took the children off into one section, and the adults, the other pastors, spoke to the adults. And I was doing, did I do that? God's bigger. Yeah, I sung some. Yeah, I did. Me and Lucia did it because Lucia does a lot of the children's work with the Congregational Federation. So we did some songs, and we had a translator. So we were just giving a brief message to them, and then we ended up actually, and it sounds a bit crazy, but we ended up painting the nails because we brought them all they'd had soup and bread, we'd had a message, we'd done some prayers, and then in the minibus we had about 10 nail varnishes, and the girls were just, they didn't even have shoes, some of these children, they didn't have shoes on, but they were just hanging about, and we had 10 minutes to spare, so we kind of planned that if we had time we were going to just get to know them. So I said, well, should I get the nail varnishes out and we can paint the nails while we talk to them? And they were queued up. You'll see in a minute. So once we'd fed them, and we'd talked to the adults there. So this is Lorraine, and then I'm there, can you see, with a foot on my knee, and I'm painting the nails of these street children. And they just wanted to be loved, just have that. So I wasn't just painting nails. While I was doing it, we were talking to them and praying for them. But, I think one of these quite a few of them didn't even have shoes. So they were just, we should have took clothes. I think every now and again they do take clothes, but they don't do it every time. The main thing is feeding them, and so there's such a big need. So I think with some of the money I've been given, I'd like to support them monthly, to help them in a monthly way for the next year, I think, just to because at the moment the churches fund all the food, and it's not a big drain, but it's a big outlet of money that they do to keep these children fed. And I think they do it, they coordinate it, so within the community there's a different church or a different organisation tries to do every day of the week. We sang songs and we prayed, we painted the nails, they absolutely loved it, and we spent a couple of hours with them there. And then another church or another organisation, they spread it around, so it works really well. But it would be nice to, Lorraine was looking after a baby, I was painting nails. I think so the people in the blue t-shirts belong to the church. That was our minibus behind. So we all went there in a minibus and worked and then got back. But a privilege to help, really, but the work carries on. So I think what I came away from, I just saw a small snapshot of what happens. But the hard work of these people at these churches, it will carry on happening even though I'm back here. That's the big team. And there's the young man at the front, pastor. Yeah, it was a really uplifting evening. Yeah, lots of good work. So that was, I think, a sunset. I think we that was the following day. We worked during the day and then went and watched the sunset in the evening. And that was another one. I'd actually got one of Leslie's crosses on there. They took us to see the view of the hall. That's Joe Pessoa. It looks very rich there, lots of hotels and big skyscrapers, but there is such poverty as well. Much more poverty here than there was at the place before. That's the cathedral again. That was we spent a morning there, but it was quite sad actually. It's 200 years old. It was a big Catholic cathedral, but it had been built by the Portuguese slaves. So and then it showed how the slaves had lived while they built this magnificent cathedral. So yeah, I mean, it was an amazing thing to look around. Wonderful. Back to the cathedral. So at both the churches, we tried to raise money while we were there by selling British goods. So this was we did an afternoon tea. And can you see, I don't know if you can go up, all Leslie's crosses were there. So they were like really well received. And we took things like PG tips, Yorkshire tea, Welsh cakes, Jaffa cakes, lots of sweets, lots of British things. And then the church family would like give a little donation. And I think in both churches we raised about £500 just with, we took everything over in a big suitcase, and we even auctioned the suitcase off because we didn't want to take it home. So we said, who wants this suitcase? And we auctioned the suitcase off, but they loved the tea. So this is the tea. I don't know if will it skip to the next one, Steve? Sorry. I think I tried to play an Instagram thing there that didn't work. Yeah. Oh, is that the last one? So I didn't, it is 7:30. We did take more pictures because they all sat down and we put tablecloths out, and they really enjoyed the afternoon tea. That was kind of a bit of a thank you for, again, this second church looking after us. But both churches I've made a strong link with, and because you were so generous with the gifts that came in, I think what made me feel quite privileged was out of the 9 people that went, I was the only person that had money from their church to bless the 2 churches there. The other people had been helped, I think, to cover costs, but they weren't in the position to help. So at both churches, I kind of made it very clear it wasn't my money, but that I'd had some generous gifts from church that I'd like to bless them with. So I think at the first church, I actually gave them all my cash I had, because the second church I've had to wait, and I've had to do a bank transfer when I've got home. But the first church wanted to buy all the children in the soup kitchen one present each, because they didn't have any toys at all. So they thought it'd be really nice if each of the children in the soup kitchen, and Steve, if we can put that Instagram post on, you know, the one that was playing at the beginning, that shows the feeling of the soup kitchen and the children. So children's toys for the first church was something Your Money helped give for. I think I'd like to support both of the soup kitchens I think it cost them £40 a month to feed them, so £10 a week to feed 250 people. So I think that's very, reasonable. So I've said that Inglewhite will help support them going forward. There's also a student exchange program. So from the first church in Brazil, they send about 6 or 7, maybe 8 at the most, students over from Brazil to Wales, and they spend 5 weeks in Wales working with churches. What we did in reverse. So I think I'd like to give maybe, a little amount of money or something to help bless them, because they find it it's so hard to raise the money to be able to come over to have that 5 weeks here. I think it costs them about £100 for their accommodation for 5 weeks, because they live at people's homes, so it's only really covering the bare minimum. But even raising that £100 on top of the flight, they find difficult to do. So even if we can give a little bit of what's left to the students coming over, I think they're coming over next May, so it will be nice maybe, they have said maybe they might come up to Inglewhite. We'll have to see what we're doing. But if they're here for 5 weeks, they could pop up and spend a day here and come and see where we are. So this is Instagram. In Brazil, they put everything on Instagram, not on Facebook. So I don't know is the sound working? Is it the soup kitchen one? I think it
Senhor possa estar indo à frente e que o teu nome seja glorificado. É o que nós te agradecemos nessa hora. Em nome de Jesus. Amém.
A nossa empatia ameniza sofrimentos, trazendo em meio ao pranto um pouco de alegria. Assim ninguém precisa usar tantos argumentos.
Senhor possa estar indo à frente e que o teu nome seja glorificado. É o que nós te agradecemos nessa hora. Em nome de Jesus. Amém.
What we I'm not sure. I think the area it was in, everything. They had to pay a security guard on after the service when we went out the front door. There was, I think it was a richer church, but it was the area because there seemed to be. Yeah, I'm not sure why there were bars on the church, but in Patos you had to be quite careful as well. When people were walking past, I think it was maybe just. I don't think that people broke them. I think it was just more security because there's money in churches. But in the second church, there was a security guard. So at the end of the service, he would just make sure everyone got out of the church building safely and there wasn't anyone hanging around. Yeah. I think in Joe Pessoa, I think the week we were there or the week before we were there, someone had been beheaded just around the corner from where we were. So although you felt very safe while you were there, I never went anywhere without somebody from Brazil that could speak Portuguese. I think you were safer in numbers. Yeah, but I never felt unsafe there. But you just had to always just have a small bag, and just stay with people and be sensible, really. But I think a lot of the street. Like I say, they have the Venezuelans have come down. The Brazilians are very proud people, but there's only so much they can do. There doesn't seem to be. There's no safety net to catch these people. So there's a lot of poverty, especially in the second town we were there. But yeah, I feel like I've probably much more to tell you. But I was saying to Angela, I've only been home a week. So I think I'm still digesting. I kept a journal while I was out there, because there were so many things we did. I thought, I'll forget all these. But I didn't, it really, there's much more I can probably feed back for youth and children's. And once I've transferred the money, we've had to do in Brazil, everything's done electronically. So, and I didn't want to carry too much cash with me. And you were so generous. I've actually had to wait till I've got back to do the so once it's all been spent, I can give you all the, like, what we've helped. But the churches were, actually, one of the churches was a little, they didn't want to receive charity. They're very proud, they do everything and raise money and they're supported by the church family. But I wanted to bless the good work I'd seen and yeah, so because I've only been back a week, I probably will be able to. I mentioned the glasses as well, Mary. I'm looking at you. So when I left, I said that we had a retired optician and a gang of what's the word, helpers, because there's probably maybe a need, but it's a long way to go. We'd have to see, because Peter said about taking some glasses if we go, or when they come here in May, could they take an extra suitcase maybe back and take some glasses over to them? But I think they would. The connections there. I think in the future that might be something that we could do, because they were amazed at, for a little church, because we had to do a little PowerPoint about us and where we were from and our church, and they said, "Oh, you're just like a little church in the countryside." But when I started talking about all the things, Moldova, Sierra Leone, International Aid Trust, all the mission work we did, I was quite proud to tell them about what we were doing. So glasses might be something we do in the future. I did plant the seed of glasses. But I had to get 2 suitcases down to Heathrow on my own. So the week before, Peter said, I could get you some glasses in a suitcase. And I thought, I can't get, because I went down on the train to Heathrow. I didn't think I'd be able to get them there. No. So maybe next time, glasses. Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of them are volunteers. I think because it was a special international conference, they knew we were coming, the students that we were there. I know a couple of the ladies had taken the week off, so they did everything, but with a lot more helpers, and they did a lot more services. There was like a prayer meeting every night. There was something happening every day, really, in church. A lot of similar to here, there'll be retired volunteers. There were people that had a certain day off that they would come and help. In the soup kitchen, not many people prepared the soup. That was mainly us, but they all came Monday night to help give out the soup. But it was a joy to see how busy it was and how many people were helping, because the church building's only as rich as the people, there doing it. Yeah, we went to the second church, which was 4 hours away, and actually 2 of the ladies drove 4 hours to see us in the second week because they'd really enjoyed being with us. That's commitment. 4 hours to come and they did stay over because it was a bank holiday weekend in Brazil, so they said we'll drive over, so they came to all the services in the second church, but it was lovely. Yeah. So lots of volunteers, but did they have maybe 1 paid member of staff? Probably similar to here. I think they had 1 lady in the office, but most of the things were volunteer-led. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. So I've asked Debbie to come and pray for the work that continues, because I've come home and I feel like all the soup kitchens, all the outreach, all the social outreach that they're doing is all continuing. So I thought it would be nice to just pray for the work that's over there to going forward. Stay here. Yeah, stay here.
Let's pray. Father, I just thank you so much that you made this possible for Louise to do. It was kind of last-minute decision to actually go. And Lord, thank you for touching her heart. Thank you for touching the hearts of so many people to give that day to bless the work in Brazil and bless Louise. And Father, I thank you for the soup kitchens, for the 2 churches she worked in, for the homeless or destitute people that they fed, for the pastoral visits, the youth work, the children's work. It's just kind of mind-boggling how much was done in 2 weeks. And Lord, thank you that the church and the volunteers were behind him and they weren't just sitting around wondering what to do. Thank you, Lord, for all that Louise got to see and do. And Lord, I pray that she and the rest of the team would just feel your hand of comfort and guidance, and as they process everything. Those sort of visits take a long time to process and work through. And Lord, I pray you would just really have your hand on her life as far as her response to this and the way going forward and how to see the team in Wales in May and things like that. Father, thank you for the generosity of the church here and everyone here and how that can be a blessing to these people in Brazil. And Father, thank you that this trip was part of a spiritual journey for not only the team who went and the volunteers at the church, but all the people on outreach, the youth Louise was with, etc. And I just pray that their love and generosity would draw people to you, whether that's these children whose nails they painted years on thinking, oh yeah, it always was such a nice thing when the churches brought soup and prayed for us. And I pray that these people would turn to you. So Lord, we just thank you for all that was done and said and for how this can be with such turmoil in the world to have such a wonderful, loving rapport and report from Louise was wonderful. So thank you, Lord. Amen. Amen.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, just to say, I do have to feed back to the National Assembly. So next May, they have a Saturday when it's down in Nottingham at head office, and we've got to prepare some resources, things that we've learned from going, and we need to feed that back to the National Assembly. So once I've had time to digest, I do feel like I've only literally just got home. But there's, the leadership style of the church, they were radical. But there's so many things we can learn from, or not change, but there's little things they do that would help other churches, I think. Some of the youth and children things I saw, the fact they feed into a Bible college, and there's that real strong journey all the way through the ages. So we're going to get back together, and I think from January there might be a couple of Sundays where I need to, I might not need to go to all of them, but we're feeding back to some of the churches. So if you wanted the whole team to come up here and talk about what they learned and what resources they're going to make to feed out to all the churches in the Congregational Federation churches in the UK, that's something we can work on. But it was such a joy to go. Thank you for making it possible. Just the fact in 2 weeks I didn't get homesick at all, really. Sorry, I didn't, because I was so busy, but it was such a joy. I think the only time I cried was when Angela came on Zoom. I did the prayer Zoom one Thursday morning, and I popped up and Paul said, "What are you doing here? You're in Brazil." But we had a Thursday morning where there was a 4-hour difference, so 11 o'clock is actually 7 o'clock. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it was lovely to, I was getting a bit homesick. I thought, I'll just go on Zoom. And I didn't cry when I saw Paul. I was fine. Didn't cry when I saw Anne. And then Angie came and went, hello. And I was like missing. Because you just finished toddlers, hadn't you? A big thanks to everyone that held it together while I was away. Really appreciate everyone's support, really. Sorry, I think I'm tired today, so please excuse the tears. But you did make me cry, and then Paul was a bit cross because he said, "Look, you didn't cry when you saw me, just when you saw Angela." And I did the same to my husband, because I rung Tim and the girls nearly every day on a video call, kept in touch with them. And then one night Tim went, "Oh, the dogs are missing you." So he turned the video camera to the 2 dogs we have, and I burst into tears again. And Tim said, I can't believe you didn't cry when you saw your daughters. You didn't cry when you saw me, but you're in floods of tears when you see the two dogs. And I said, oh, sorry. So anyway, thank you for listening tonight. And that's it. Oh, honestly.